Yeah, great to see Shweta and Amrata. Yeah, excited to kick things off as the rest of the community is jumping in here. And yeah, really excited about this event with Logan. This is a collaboration between few different groups are Prepare for VC, Boston New Technology, and Startup Grind on the startup community side. And then, yeah, Logan's representing Sugar Security, and we had a couple great conversations learning about, how they're helping startups and small businesses basically have a more streamlined and efficient way to manage their cybersecurity needs. So yeah, I got a chance to check out the really cool platform and was excited for him to share his expertise with our network here. So yeah, he's going to dive into workshop presentation and then, we'll keep it conversational for questions along the way and at the end as well. And yeah, as we're kicking off, I'm gonna hand it over to Logan, but feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Like, we'll keep this open and then along the way, if there's any questions, feel free to jump in as well. Yeah, so if you want to share like
Yeah.
LinkedIn or any other information, connect with each other. And yeah, Logan, excited to hand it over to you to um kick us off on the presentation here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Jason. I'm excited to meet everybody. I can go ahead and share my screen, but because this is a smaller group, I would love to, like what Jason said, get to know everybody. A lot of the examples I'm going to do, I mean, cybersecurity is very industry focused and industry specific, so I would love to learn about all of your businesses and what you guys do. I see Jay on my screen first.
Yep. Hey, I'm driving, so I'm not
Cool.
on camera. But yeah, so I mostly do cybersecurity biz dev. Sort of,
Cool.
I run partnerships, anything go to market. That's kind of my thing.
Awesome. Cool. Uh, and then did I hear Weta? Is that how you pronounce? Is the SH silence? I heard Jason say it once.
Yeah, no worries. It's Shweta.
Shweta. Okay, so it's not silent. Okay, Shweta, good to meet you.
Yeah, no, nice to meet you. This is my first time joining in. I'm part of like a Boston New Technology as well. My background is in product management, so in technology, and would love to learn more about the cybersecurity. And I don't work directly in cybersecurity, but given I have worked in the past with engineers and data scientists, and would love to see how that 360 view is for cybersecurity. So yeah, excited.
Awesome. And then I saw Namratha. Am I close with that one? I don't know if you all know each other, but I saw your message, so that's totally fine. I will go ahead and kick off my presentation then. And yeah, feel free, anybody, throw out questions. I'm trying to make it to where, yeah, I can share my whole screen. There we go. Um, yeah, feel free to just stop me if questions. These can be questions about cybersecurity, questions about, because I know Jay, you mentioned like biz dev. Happy to talk about anything, but really the focus of this is for cybersecurity, for founders, small businesses, startups, general cybersecurity issues I've seen a lot of, and ways you can take care of yourself and take care of your business. So first off, thank you all for coming. Thanks, Jason, for putting this together. Um, I don't really think this is going to be a full 20-minute presentation. I do have plans to have time for questions and Q&A like we've already sort of started. But the first half is going to cover founder cybersecurity because that's super important when you're talking about a small company where it's mostly just the founders. And then general tech security. So this is for businesses that might not necessarily be SaaS businesses. Sorry, technical difficulties already. Teams messages popping up, so gotta love it. Let me adjust. But the idea is, even if you're not a SaaS business, you're probably a tech business nowadays. Most businesses are. Um, and so there's general principles that apply to that. And then SaaS security. We'll spend some time talking about specifically cybersecurity for SaaS businesses. So a bit about me. I'm a hacker and a founder. So I've been running Sugar Security. This is my first business. Hopefully my only business. I love cybersecurity. I've been doing it my whole life. So I've got OSCP and CISSP certifications. If you're in cybersecurity, you might know those. Um, they are certified hacking and certified cybersecurity advising type of accolades or whatever you might call them. I've done cybersecurity assessments for all sorts of businesses, small businesses, big businesses. covering cloud, websites, mobile apps, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, we're about 4 years into my startup, Sugar Security. So I see the other side of it too. As a founder, right? You don't have a lot of time to worry about cybersecurity. You have a lot of other problems, a lot of other risks to your business besides just cyber risk. So cool. And I see Michael hopped on. Hey, Michael.
Hello.
Okay, so hey, let's go ahead and stop here for a second. And we probably won't do this if more and more people hop on. But Michael, we did a little bit of like roundtable intro. If you want to talk about your business, I'd love to learn about it. It might help with the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Aflakby, CEO of Impact Health Alliance. Impact Health Alliance is a next-gen home care company. Our core offering are home care services. So if an individual has disabilities or is an older adult, we come to their home and help them with activities of living, such as meal prepping, laundry, toileting, mobility issues, and we also provide companionship. Our long-term vision is to generally create public health and tech-based solutions for older adults and people with disabilities. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Good to meet you. That's good timing because so the first bullet here is about healthcare technology. So if you're in the healthcare technology industry, you might have heard of HIPAA. Thankfully, a lot of health tech startups don't have to be HIPAA compliant. The thing is, you're probably going to keep hearing about it from customers and partners. That usually ends up being why a lot of people reach out to us when you're a startup. You start worrying about cybersecurity often when your customer starts worrying about cybersecurity and asking, hey, have you done testing? Do you have any reports you can send us? Some sort of data sheet about how you're doing encryption, that kind of thing. That's why a lot of people reach out to us. We had venture capital firms that have used us because they're about to take on a big investment from a bank, or maybe you're about to get acquired. So it's part of like a due diligence audit process a lot. Cybersecurity ends up becoming an item in those. So health tech, HIPAA, edutech has COPPA. There's one for every industry, it feels like. I know Boston or the state of Massachusetts has its own cybersecurity law, kind of like how California does. A few states in the US are starting to have laws around cybersecurity, specifically around how you handle citizens' data. So that's often a big topic. A lot of people go into cybersecurity for risk management. So if you're looking to buy cyber insurance, you can usually get discounted insurance if you have strong cybersecurity hygiene. And also just because people don't want to get hacked. You'll see things in the news all the time. Company gets hacked. There's a statistic out there. This is a study done by Verizon. Over 60% of startups will fail after a cyber attack if it causes significant downtime. Just because of the reputational damage is a big one, financial damage. It costs over $1 million in a lot of cases to recover from a cybersecurity breach. You have to get all your data back. There's a lot of problems that come with that. And then some people worry about cybersecurity just because due diligence. This is actually a thing I saw from Jason. He said part of his investment philosophy is bet on the jockey. And so I saw that from some other people. You bet on the person when you're starting a business. And that's why there's a lot of repeat founders. Maybe the first startup fails, but you learn a lot. You go into your second startup. Reputational damage can happen to the founders too. And so it's one of those things where a lot of CTOs, technical founders or technical CEOs, sometimes it's the COO looking at it from a risk management perspective, but you say, I don't want to get hacked. I don't want that following me for the rest of my life. The Uber CISO, the chief security officer for Uber, he had a big hack, and now it's one of those things where it kind of follows him around. And so cybersecurity comes up for a number of different reasons. And so people want to know, what are the top risks? Like what are the top things I can do to keep myself safe? So there's a little game, spot the biggest cybersecurity risk at this startup. So you're a small company, you've got a couple founders, some tech, and some customers. Where's the biggest cybersecurity risk? It's right here, the founders. So because our company is so small, maybe if you're a tech startup, you're starting to build out some tech, but the founders have the biggest attack surface. They have all of the access to the tech. They have all of the data. A founder's email can be a big asset for a hacker. When I say attack surface, let's talk about that. So it's sort of like a cybersecurity version of your carbon footprint. So it's everything that's out there about your business, or you in this case, if you're talking about the founder's attack surface. So that can be, again, your email, your social media, your personal credit and finances. That's usually what hackers will go after, is the people that are in the business. So even if the business might not have a lot of sensitive data or a lot of money in the business bank account, hackers find ways to pivot, just like startups find ways to pivot. Hackers pivot from, hey, I have access to this system, I'm going to try to get access to this other system. So you kind of got to keep a watch. So general founder cybersecurity tips, you might have heard these. These are just good cyber hygiene. Use unique passwords for everything. Have strong passwords. Don't use the same password on all your different accounts, because if one account gets hacked, your other accounts are going to get hacked as well. There's whole databases out there of hacked passwords. HaveIBeenPwned.com is a website. The guy is based in Australia. I'm not affiliated, but it's like a favorite among hackers because you can type in someone's email address or username. You can go try it yourself. Odds are you have at least one password out there that's been hacked on some website. And you don't want that to be the same password you use on everything else. So make sure you're using unique passwords. Have a password manager, something like Bitwarden. I use LastPass. They're not a perfect solution because if the password manager gets hacked, then oftentimes that risks your passwords getting hacked. But a lot of these online password manager sites have layers and layers of security. So something like Bitwarden is what I recommend. Use multi-factor authentication. Specifically, avoid using SMS-based multi-factor authentication. So that's like when you get a text message with a code, that actually is not fully secure. There are hackers out there that have found ways to compromise that. But if you have the app has found to be, mathematically proven to be secure so far. Security is one of those things where everything is thought to be secure until someone finds that one hole. So for now, the multi-factor auth apps like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, those are safe. SMS two-factor auth is a little less safe, but it's still better than just having your password. And then run regular updates. So if you've got your browser prompting you to have an update, your phone prompting you to have an update, different software on your PC, please run those updates. They are releasing them for a reason. It's not always just new features and making things bubblier or faster. A lot of times it's security updates. There's $1 trillion industry out there of people researching cybersecurity issues in different versions of Android, Google Chrome, Safari browser, like everything out there. There's people looking for holes in it. And sometimes they'll find these holes, and that's why these updates exist, is to patch those holes. And then number 4, monitor your stuff. And when I say stuff, that's kind of general, but that's the idea. Again, hackers pivot, so they're going after whatever is valuable, whatever they can find. So that could be, monitoring your personal credit, monitoring your business credit, monitoring all your accounts. So if you see something suspicious in an email saying, hey, someone tried logging in from overseas or something, look into that, change your password. Don't ignore it, because sometimes someone gets that little bit of a foothold, and then hackers can really dig in once they have that first foothold. Okay, so moving on from founder security, let's talk about like for a small business. So I already mentioned email a little bit, but specifically be sure that you're using email encryption. A lot of public email providers will support this already, like Gmail supports it by default. If you're sending especially sensitive information, some people like to go an extra mile and use an additional email security solution besides just the default Google encryption. There are solutions out there. I'm not going to recommend one here because it's different for everybody, but encryption is important. Website security. Your website has all sorts of issues that you might not know about, specifically things like if you're using something like WordPress or one of these no-code apps, a security issue in that platform can become an issue for you. WordPress is a good example. That happens all the time. I think like 1/3 of the internet got hacked at one point. They had it like WordPress Armageddon. There's some fun. There's something like that in cybersecurity every day. WordPress Geddon. Social media security. So again, that's like a big asset for a lot of startups. Your LinkedIn, your Twitter. It might not often come up on these cybersecurity audits because it's not considered like your product technology. It doesn't have an IP address or anything like that, but it is an asset to your team and it's technical, and hackers will go after it. So your Twitter, LinkedIn, that kind of stuff, make sure you're locked down. Access controls. So POLP is principle of least privilege. The idea is that you shouldn't give anybody access to something unless they absolutely need it. And you shouldn't give anyone access to more than what they need. So hopefully that gets the idea across. Customers should only be able to access customer data, their own customer data. Employees should only be able to access the data that they absolutely need for their job. I see some chats. Yeah, don't use password 1 as your password, exactly. So another example is like summer 2024. That's one that we see a lot. People do the season and then the year. Because password policies require you to change your password every 3 months often. So they'll say spring 2024, time to come to change it, summer 2024, fall 2024. These are compliant with a lot of like corporate password policies, but hackers know about it and they go for it. So same thing with password one, exclamation point, all that stuff. Okay, and then number 6 is backups. So again, this stuff applies to even if you're not a SaaS business. If you're any business that utilizes technology, you should be doing these things, and backups is a big one. Your computer might automatically do a backup, but make sure you're backing up your website. Make sure you're backing up any. So like again, social media is another one. So I've had people contact me because, hey, my Twitter got hacked and I can't get into it, and we had a big following, or my Instagram got hacked and we can't get into it, and we had a big following. If that's the case, your best bet is reaching out to Instagram or Twitter or, whoever the provider is, because if you hadn't backed up your posts or backed up your, like a CRM, that's a good example. That's a big asset for startups. If your CRM gets hosed and you don't have a backup of it, you're out of like one of your most precious assets, which is your customer base. So why do hackers do this? Why do they go after your stuff? Number one, money, obviously. So ransomware gangs, if you hear about that on the news, that's a big thing. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry out there of people just encrypting all your stuff and saying, hey, if you want to get it back, pay me. So CRM or your website, oh, it's down, and the only way to get it back is to pay me. But also intellectual property theft. There's a big market out there for people stealing models right now. If you're developing like AI models, people are trying to get those because they're all proprietary and pretty valuable right now. Also, money from abusing functionality. So if your app is like pay as you go and someone finds a way to bypass that pay as you go, they can use it and use it and use all your resources without paying you. So someone found a bug with AWS like that. AWS makes it to where you can spin up like supercomputer clusters for a few dollars. Someone found a way to bypass this early on with AWS and spun up tons and tons of resources without ever paying Amazon. And you don't want that same kind of thing to happen to your startup. A lot of people hack stuff for fun. So script kiddies is a big term. This is like teenagers or students or whoever that's just out there as a hobbyist hacker, doing it for the thrill to see if they can. It's an intellectual challenge. Similar researchers. So again, cybersecurity researchers just look for holes because they're the good guys, but they have to poke at these things to find problems so they can fix them and help you fix them. And then this one's maybe less likely for some startups, but a lot of hackers hack from ideology, right? Hacktivists, disgruntled employees is a big one. There was some statistic out there, I don't remember it, so I'm not going to say it, but some percent of hacks happened from the executives leaving. So if it's like a bad co-founder relationship, your co-founder is able to log in and take all your emails, take all your website code, that kind of thing. That's a hack. I mean, it's a breach of your intellectual property. So we talked about this a little bit, but there are compliance and regulatory standards. So HIPAA, COPPA, I mean, depending on your industry, you'll probably have one. And then there are industry agnostic ones. These are just general frameworks that you can look at for your cybersecurity for your business. A lot of them are free, open source. You can Google them and find guidelines for cybersecurity for businesses. They'll list out bullet point by bullet point, encrypt this, back up this, put passwords on this, all that stuff. And Massachusetts one would be a good place to start, since this is a Boston thing. I imagine everybody here's in Boston or around Boston, something like that. But there's similar cybersecurity requirements for the state of California. GDPR for Europe is another one that's similar to this. So start looking at those, and that can give you an idea as well. Okay, so for SaaS specific businesses, there are SaaS specific challenges, and I know we're coming up on time. I want to have time for questions, so I might speed up a little bit here. But you don't want your app to go down. Obviously, that's bad for business. You don't want them abusing functionality, like I said, using your app and not paying you for it. You want to protect your customers' data, especially if you're having sensitive data like healthcare data. We have a client that does legal deposition transcripts, and so they don't want those getting out to people that aren't supposed to have access to them. Make sure you're backing up things. So again, you might have a backup of your website. You might have a backup of your laptop. One thing that a lot of startups don't do is back up their infrastructure. So you'll have your code for your SaaS app backed up, but you don't have all of the configurations and setup of your cloud account that app went into backed up. And so there are things like infrastructure as code. You should be running those and running backups on them as well. Again, this is SaaS specific, so it might not be applicable to everybody, but it also depends on your tech stack. So if you have a mobile app, you have different security concerns than a web app. Or if you have a wearable, One of our customers is into wearables, and so we took one of their wearables and used little hardware hacking tools. I had a soldering iron, I had all this stuff trying to hack in and like poke at these different outlets on the wearable. And so, yeah, you're going to need specific work done if you're really trying to make sure you're 100% secure. Nobody is 100% secure, but it's good to have these sorts of tests done. And so this is sort of an exercise that you can take home, something I would love to challenge everybody to do. Find your attack surface. So again, this is that carbon footprint analogy. Like, what are the different ways in which your business is exposed to the world? That includes you. You have email, tech websites. Your company might also have separate tech websites. You have partner portals. You have all sorts of stuff out there that interact with your business. And I want everybody to kind of think about those different security controls on those things. So to recap, why care about cybersecurity? Well, regulations, risk management, revenue. So in the case of a customer wanting you to be secure, it's a revenue blocker if you don't have certain cybersecurity things in place. And some people love it just because cybersecurity is the right thing in their heads. What do you do as a founder or a startup? Make sure you're having basic cyber hygiene, use unique passwords, multi-factor auth, monitor your tech, and run updates when they come up. And then if you're a SaaS founder specifically, make sure you're backing up everything. Make sure you're following the principle of least privilege, so making sure people don't have access to stuff they don't need. Follow secure development processes using some of those open frameworks I mentioned, ISO and NIST. And then look at your security supply chain. So if your app is made up of a bunch of other people's tech, which everybody's is, I mean, we all rely on open source in some way. You got to make sure your supply chain is secure. And good time for questions.
Perfect. No, great presentation. Yeah, we can do either format. If you want to unmic and ask a question or put it in the chat, and then we can take any questions now.
All right. Well, please, everybody, I have a free cybersecurity scanner. So if you do want to check out your cybersecurity, I encourage you to. One is ours, obviously, a little plug for myself, but also there are other ones out there. SSLlabs.com is a good one. These are free. You can just put in your website. It's a quick cybersecurity test. You'll get like a report card back. And feel free to email me, Logan@sugarsecurity.com, and we can talk about things. I'd love to learn more about everybody and what you're working on and help you with cybersecurity.
And so those will basically tell you where the weak spots are for getting hacked in your website?
Yep, exactly. Again, it's an automated test. So I've been doing this as a consultant for years and years. And so you don't really find everything unless you put everything into it. But a free scan is a good start. Yeah.
Perfect. No, this is great. Yeah, and I think, it's an area where people know it's important, but it can be something that you think, oh, when we get bigger, we'll deal with that. But it's something that, you don't want the first thing people look up about your company to be a cybersecurity attack. So no, great that
Exactly.
you have all these resources and yeah, tools and techniques to help companies.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Yeah. Everybody feel free to hit me up with questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll share yeah, I can share this afterwards with everybody that came out and put it on our channel as well.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jason.